Hello everyone and welcome back to Nordvik. This is episode 3. Now let me start off by saying thank you so much for the incredible response on the first 2 episodes of this series. It seems like it's not only me just enjoying this series. There has been a lot of new viewers to this channel, not only people from Scandinavia but also from other parts, Netherlands, Russia, Germany, all over the place. It's been incredible. So thank you all for the incredible feedback. Now in this episode we are continuing working on some farmlands, and etc. Episode 2 was just me trying out, seeing what kind of assets I had and what kind of assets I was going to use. And in episode 3 I thought to myself, what could I do in this one? What could I create? Because I didn't want to start working on the downtown quite yet. Maybe soon, but not right now. So I'm going to start off how I usually start off all of my cities. Not just the ones I have created a series of here on YouTube, but also the cities I have made in my spare time. And the first thing I do is I try to figure out where do I get my basic necessities from. In this case, where do I get my power from, and where do I get my source of water? Because those two are, of course, very vital. If you play this game, you know that this is something you have to put down within the first couple of minutes after playing. It's not really that much of a case when you're playing as heavily modded as I am doing right now. The buildings won't disappear because they have or don't have access to water, but it's nice to put them in quite early still, to sort of make this feel actually functional. Because yes, I do want this to look realistic, to look aesthetically pleasing, but I also want it to function. And when you make it function, you sort of also make movement, which then again makes it look more realistic. So that's why I am trying to figure out where I get my power from and where do I get my water from. The water I am getting from a freshwater lake that I make. That's the first thing I made in this episode. In other countries, or not every country, but a lot of countries, they tend to drill for fresh water using wells. However, in Norway and I'm pretty sure the rest of Scandinavia as well, that's very uncommon because there is so much freshwater lakes to take drinking water from, and there is usually never an issue with any bacteria in the water. Usually they have a pretty good system on how to clean the water before it actually runs through the pipes and into people's homes. Now usually the lakes that give people their drinking water, it's you're not allowed to swim in those lakes for obvious reasons actually, but I still wanted this area to be quite accessible to people. I didn't want to be fenced off or anything. This is literally in the middle of nowhere. On the map it's all the way up towards the edge, so there is it's just gonna be mountains around here and forests. And going out into the mountains and forests are very popular in Scandinavia, just to get a little bit of fresh air and walk along different kinds of paths. And that's what I wanted to replicate in this one as well. So I created a path that goes around the lake as well, so people can enjoy being near the lake, but actually they wouldn't be allowed to swim in it. But then again, this area is very much under detailed, almost definitely around this lake, simply because I'm not going to spend any much more time around these parts. This is probably going to be one of the only episodes where we're actually gonna view this lake. So I made it very simple. I made a small island in the middle, and then I made the path around it, and that was pretty much it. Then I went on to the next thing, and that was trying to figure out how do I get my power. So after building this lake, it was kind of obvious what I wanted to do for power, and that was building one or several hydroelectric dams. And that is actually quite obvious because a little fun fact for you, that 99% of Norway's power comes from hydropower stations. That 99%, that's quite insane. And there are roughly 335 of these stations in and around the country. And also found this cool picture on Reddit that shows you just how many they are and how scattered they are. Now I would imagine the remaining 1% could be solar power and wind power, and possibly coal as well, very small amount. So the people living in Norway, they are incredibly lucky, really, when it comes to power, because Norway is actually the country of waterfalls, really. And you don't really think about it, but there are so many waterfalls. Waterfalls are perfect, you know, when it comes to creating power, because they're so powerful in itself. And when you, instead of letting the water just flow off the edge of a cliff, you instead try to force it down a pipe instead, and then you have some sort of rotor or anything like down in the end to then, you know, power up a I don't really know too much about how it works, but definitely just getting all of that water down a pipe creates so much power. And what's good about it is, of course, that is clean energy, renewable, because the water just goes straight through down towards the lake or fjord or inlet or whatever, and then eventually goes back up again, you know, through the clouds, and it rains down, and then we start all over. The negative aspect of it is the waterfall itself is gone. That's pretty much it. I believe some of the waterfalls are protected right now, definitely the largest ones, because I'm pretty sure that the largest ones in Norway are among the largest waterfalls in the world. I think the largest one might be in Peru or something, but I definitely think that top 5 there should be 1 or 2 Norwegian waterfalls in there. But it's not just waterfalls that you get hydroelectric power from. Just large rivers as well are perfect for it. And I want to take advantage of this lake that I built. So we're actually going to build 3 hydropower stations alongside this river right here. So you would imagine that this river used to be a lot larger, possibly. Or maybe it used to be a lot more water running through it, but now it's sort of built up like a dam 3 times along this river. And you could possibly imagine that the lake that I built in the first place was a lot smaller. Maybe that also was just another part of that river, but now it's just gotten so big it's possibly a lake. Who knows? The dams in Norway are owned and operated by the state. They actually sell the clean and renewable energy to other countries that are on the same grid. Denmark, Sweden, Finland, and I also think just recently, or they're about to connect the grid, electrical grid that they have in Norway with the German one, so they can sell their energy or their electricity to Germans. And what's really cool about most of your electricity coming from hydropower stations is that if it's been raining a lot, or if it's been a very mild spring, so a lot of snow is melting, suddenly the power bill gets a lot smaller, because they have this abundance of power that they create, so they can sell that power at a cheaper price. So right now, or maybe not right now, but I think it's they're telling that this spring it's gonna be very cheap, very cheap electricity, because it's supposed to be quite warm, and it's warm right now. It's no snow in major parts of Norway, and it's January, so that's a really cool thing. But then again, if there isn't a lot of water, it means that the power suddenly becomes, or the electricity becomes a lot more expensive, which is just what you have to live with, I guess. Now I know that there is a dam in the game that actually creates energy, creates electricity. However, I placed it down first, and I wasn't too pleased about it. It didn't look too good, as most vanilla assets do. So I instead tried to just focus on how it looks instead of how it functions, because it doesn't function. So what I did, I placed down a key underneath a bridge, and then I downloaded some of these terraform networks, and I placed them down. So it sort of, how should I describe it? It is something that stops the water from flowing into the river, but it's very much hidden due to the key and the terraform network. So there actually is no water running from the lake to the river. I instead placed down one of these water spawners that comes with another mod. I think it's a mod by Bloody Penguin. It's one of the oldest ones. I think I had it since 2015. So I just placed it down. So it's actually not connected. There are several rivers, but from looking at it, it looks like it's connected. And I also built this building on the side of the river. So this is sort of like the power station itself. This is where the water flows through. This is where the transformer is, and the turbines and everything. I tried doing a little bit more PO. I think I tried it in the last episode. Yeah, I did. And I tried a little bit more. I'm getting better. I've been currently working a lot on the next episode, episode 4, and a little bit more PO there. And I'm getting there. It's looking better for each and every one. So I'm using PO on this one to. I think I increased the size of one of these buildings, and I also made a pipe by a smaller pipe, and I what did I do with it? I think I just rotated it so it looks like it's just flowing from the lake and down into the building further down. And I also found these waterfall props. I think they're props. I'm pretty sure they are, and they're quite small, but what they do is they look like actually water is constantly flowing. So I thought that might be cool to add. So I also used PO on that one, and I instead of having it turned upright, I turned it like horizontal, and I created this little open area so you can actually see, and it looks like there is water flowing quite rapidly, and it sort of helps on the immersion. Like, you don't need me to tell you that, okay, this is the power station, this is where the water runs through the turbines, etc. You can just see it. You can just see it from screenshots. You can just see it from the cinematics and everything. That also helps out on the realism, when you can just spot something and you figure out, oh, that's what it's supposed to be, instead of having me explaining what it's supposed to be. Now, what is better to build right next to a power station than a public park? Of course, this wouldn't be possible if this was coal, or if they were burning oil into creating electricity. This is only possible because this is green and renewable energy. And this park area, I wanted to build it so it looks quite new. quite newly built, and it's just a sort of nice idea that you could spend the afternoon going to your favorite park alongside the river, and just looking on the other side, that's the power station, you know. So I started off by building the parking lot, of course using parking lot roads, as I've been using religiously for many years now. I like the rundown version. I think the original one is a tad too dark for this use, so the rundown version is a lot better, I think. Creating a few parking lots, and what's nice is actually functional as well. And I do believe in the cinematics at the end, I can see actually cars being parked there. The reason why they parked here is because I intentionally tried to get people to visit this area by turning it to an actual park. So I placed down a invisible park gate, and I covered it up a little bit, sort of, with I think with some stairs, because it comes with the original path, so it's not completely invisible, but you just cover up the path itself, and then you're fine, you're good to go. There's not really that much to do, but I did place down a gazebo at the end of this. It's almost like a tiny peninsula, and also I built up so it looks like a beach, and also placed down some blankets, I think, as well, so it sort of looks like there's actually people here. And also I did actually find some props of people lying that was, I think, recently made. I didn't place them down in time, recorded cinematics before that, but that's something I could do. So it looks like there actually is people there at this moment instead of just the blankets. But you still get movement from people driving up to this area, parking, walking through the invisible gate, and then visiting the gazebo. And it's not that many people, but it's still perfect, really, because this is a quite remote place, so it wouldn't be that many people visiting this area. It might be actually very much hidden as well. Maybe not a lot of people know about this spot, just the locals. Because if you watched episode 1, then you remember me creating this map of Boulder Cove, and I placed down dots for every town that I want to make, and also Nordvik, the city itself. So it's gonna be a small town nearby, very small, like tiny. Just gonna have a elementary school to it, and maybe like one grocery store, possibly. So this would maybe be a nice area for the locals of that village to sort of visit during the weekend. However, maybe for the people living in Nordvik, it's maybe not that known over there. They might want to go to somewhere a little bit more closer and more known. So this might be a very much hidden spot. So now we are done with the first dam, and we got 2 more to go. I wanted first the river to continue on a little bit before I started working on the next dam. So I tried to make it as meandering as possible, to sort of make it look a lot more natural, really. I would imagine that this river isn't as fast flowing as other bigger rivers, therefore it might take a few more tight corners and turns and stuff like that, so it meanders through the valley right here. And for the second dam, I just went with the same tactic, really, as with the first one, with placing down terraform networks and also a key, and then also making a bridge across the dam itself. And the same thing with the building. I also placed down a building on the right hand side, well, it's the left hand side actually, left hand side of the dam. Considers, or it depends on where you're standing, but place down another hydropower station and try to emphasize a little bit more on electricity and make it look very much like there is electricity being produced here by actually placing down some transformers and power lines to go from this area. So maybe this is sort of like the main building when it comes to getting power in or in and along this river. So that's why I built also built later here some pretty big power lines. Now I won't have these power lines going all over the area, but I do want them to go quite a distance. Maybe not the larger ones like you can like I'm gonna place down right now, but maybe later I'll place down smaller ones to go the other way. It really just depends. It's not always power lines are being, you know, in towers. In some cases they are buried underground. Other cases they're actually buried under water, so it can cross large bodies of water. And that's where, you know, mods come in, because that makes it possible. In vanilla, you can't do that. But I still want to have power lines going across here, not because I do want to get power in every location. I can easily do that by placing down what's called a block service. I think it's from the workshop. You can just place down a tiny block and it produces electricity. I could place it inside a house so it's invisible. So making it function isn't really an issue, but it does look good, you know. It makes make this area look a lot more realistic. And you don't really think about it, but power lines, they're quite important playing this game, trying to make something look good. Now we are quite far into this episode, so that means that if you're watching this right now, you're probably kind of interested in the series and you're paying quite a lot of attention to it. So that's why I want to ask you, what do you want to see next in this series? Is there anything special in particular? Are there any places that you've visited or live nearby that you want to see not really replicated in this series, but you want to see some inspiration from these parts? Then definitely use the comment section. I've also got a lot of interesting suggestions on Discord on places I should look up, and I haven't made plans, but what I can tell you is that in the next episode we are actually starting working on the downtown of Nordvik. It's going to be a main city in this region. We're not going to finish up or we might actually finish up the downtown core in that one episode. It's going to be a long episode, that one as well, so look forward to that one. But the downtown core isn't that big. It's going to be surrounded by a lot of suburbs, a lot of industry, so it's far from finished. And after that one, I don't really have that much of an idea what I'm gonna do in episode 5, because I do have a lot of ideas, but I don't know quite what to do in what order. I don't want to do 5 episodes in a row working on the city of Nordvik. That's gonna be too tiring, really. I do have a lot of smaller towns to work on. I want to build a football stadium, or somewhat of a football stadium, not a big one, but a relatively small one. I want to build a college or a university of some sort, quite a small one, but still. And of course I do have a lot of work when it comes to nature, really, and sort of work on terraforming the landscape to make it look kind of a little bit more realistic. I got good feedback on the very first episode when it comes to the landscape. One thing was one of the cliff sides in one of the cinematic shots. I totally agree on that one. I think it was it was way too way too way too clean really, and way too steep. So just know that I will be working a lot on landscape, and this episode in itself is just building landscape really, making this part look kind of finished when it comes to not only the buildings and the small area, but also the landscape around it. I'm very happy with the trees that I have. I'm also very happy with the textures as well, and the same with the mountains around this part. It's just wait and see till the cinematics at the end. It's gonna be quite good. I'm really happy with how it turned out. And if you think I am taking way too much inspiration from one country in particular, I think so too, honestly. But in the next episode, the Nordvik downtown special episode, if you might call it that, it's gonna be actually kind of inspired by several countries: Norway, Finland, and Sweden. I went ahead and downloaded a lot of like logo packs from Finland and Sweden. So and also a lot of buildings that are taken right from Sweden and Finland. So it's gonna be maybe a lot more focus on these two than Norway, which has been the main part really of these few episodes we have so far. But then again, I don't think it matters too much. The geography is quite similar in all countries. Well, there are differences of course, but it's not too much different. Definitely when it comes to trees, that's where they are most similar, I think. If you stand in the middle of a forest in Finland, you might also think you're standing in the middle of a forest in Norway, because it's the same kind of trees that grow there. The only difference that I do know is quite visible is the heights of the mountains and the how big and deep the valleys are. That's something you usually just find in Norway, because it's just such a tall and winding country really. But definitely, if you have any suggestions on what you want to see being built in Nordvik, then of course let me know. But now we are done with the second dam, and just to recap, what I placed down was actually really a functional building, which sounds a little bit weird, but it actually does function as a source of water, which is that doesn't really matter, but it's nice placing down something that actually supposed to work. I didn't use that much PO here. I think I just copied the pipe from the previous dam and placed it down. I didn't go with the waterfall props that make it look like water is running at rapid speed. I didn't place that down there. I wanted I wanted all of the dams to look kind of similar, but then again somewhat different. So that's why this one is the main difference in this dam is that it's got this sort of power line coming from it. And I might also want to apologize for the transformer station or whatever it's called. I downloaded a pack that's got a ton of these tiny assets, not tiny props really, to function as or to look like it's my transformer station. But then again, I don't even know if that's what it's supposed to be called. I have no idea. So I just placed down something that sort of looked like it could be a real thing, and I hope it functions like it. So if you have a lot of knowledge about these things and you look at this and you think, wow, that's absolutely terrible, then I am really sorry, but I'm never gonna zoom in on this as much as I'm doing right now. So as long as it looks good from a distance, then I think everything is okay. But at least I tried. I tried to look for inspiration, try to learn a little bit about it, but it was so difficult, But after that I was really finished, placed down a few more props in the form of cars and trucks, and also this custom parking lot. It doesn't quite work, but that's why the cars are being placed down, to make it look like people are actually on the job right now. They're working. The third dam, and also the smallest dam, is located quite far away from the original lake. It's very close to the sort of, I do want to call it the fjord that might be categorized as the main fjord in this area. I didn't place down a building right next to it, a hydropower station, just because I didn't want to place it down as close, or want to place down such a big building, industrial building, close to a residential area. Although there aren't any residential areas in this vicinity, but there will be, so that's why I didn't do that. I also worked on trying to make the water flow quite slowly when it comes in this area, because this river will be going through quite a populated area, so I didn't want it to look like it was really going at incredible speed, so I tried to make it as flat as possible. Eventually I made it too flat, so it looked like water was going from the fjord and upriver instead of the other way around. So I made it a little bit steeper, and kind of happy with the result. And it's really difficult working with water in City Skylines. It was really annoying. Definitely what I found out is incredibly annoying, since I've been working on downtown Nordvik, which is right next to the waterfront, is how much of a difference the water just suddenly rises and drops. Like even still water moves at it looks like it's a constant storm, which doesn't really make sense. So suddenly you're working on the waterfront and you want the waterfront to be right next, or just a few meters taller than the water, and then suddenly goes a few seconds and all of your buildings are being flooded, because suddenly just the ocean just decided it wanted to rise like 2 stories like in an instant. It's incredibly annoying. I wish it was a lot more still and a lot more fluid, really. So maybe they can work on that if they are planning to do a sequel, which I really hope they do. It also sort of looks like it, because the first game was a huge success. I think I read somewhere that this company, when they released City Skylines, it was just a few people working on it. Now they've got so many employees. It's they've grown so much. The developers behind this one, colossal order. And also considering the last DLC, which kind of looked like it was, hey, let's just find everything that we got left and just throw it in a bag and make them pay money for it. It was a good DLC, the Sunset Harbor one, but it was very much clear that this was just the leftovers from mass transit and industries. And we also haven't seen a DLC in quite a while, which I'm just crossing my fingers that they're working on a sequel. But to talk a little bit more about this last dam, once again, same tactic: bridge across the dam, network, terraform networks and keys. Decided to make this area look a little bit more built up, to make it sort of act like a park as well. Created a small deck for like a viewing area of the river and the dam itself. I worked a lot on the foliage around the water, and I built. I did build a tiny little bit of industry. It's actually hidden beneath or underneath the bridge itself. I wouldn't expect a lot of things happening down there, but it might just be a small room that the people working there can go into and just check that everything is okay. So maybe the entire operation is kind of hidden underground, considering the other two are really hidden within the buildings. So the third dam is very much smaller and more hidden. There is no offices or anything down here. It's just the workers come in to check, really. That's all they do down here. I was considering maybe I do want to build this town right by this dam, that I want to build it now. However, I thought now that's a little bit too much work. So what I'll do instead is work on the area nearby the river further upstream. I wanted to build a lot of farms and a lot of trees, make it look like a really lush area, because they do have this big river running through it, and it also is a valley, so you would expect it to be kind of warm here during the summertime. It sort of like heats up, so it would be a perfect place for agriculture. So for the next few minutes of this time lapse, that's what we're gonna do, build on some farms once again. The first thing I did was trying to figure out where the houses, where they're gonna sit. So I went around and I built out the really just a road layout, rough estimate of where these things will be. So I thought to myself, where is it fitting, considering the landscape? Where is it fitting to have farms? Where is it fitting to have regular houses and homes? And after that I went ahead and used the same assets that I used in episode 2 for farmhouses, and I placed them down on the lots that would make sense in my opinion. And then I also placed down normal, or what I would like to call normal houses. People living in those homes, they just own that small property, they do not own a farm. Now I was would I say complaining in a previous episode about the lack of just normal suburban houses from Scandinavia on the workshop. I was at least talking about that previously, about the lack of these houses. I have found a few more that sort of fits. I think these are built by, I would like to say, geometry. I think that's her username on the workshop. I'm not quite sure, but these houses are American. I don't know where in the US, but they are American inspired. The reason why I decided to download them was because they were made out of wood instead of brick or concrete, which a lot of houses are on the workshop. So they do, of course they do kind of look like it. Not perfect they're fantastic assets, don't get me wrong, but they're not perfect for what I would like to use, but they're very close. So I use a lot of her assets in this one. And I decided to cluster the houses into tiny neighborhoods in and around this area. It's not a lot of people living in this valley, but where there are people, they're sort of clustered together. And that sort of also builds on what I was talking about in the previous episodes about housing estates, that all of this area in like a time ago was just farmlands divided between a few farms, maybe like 2 farms or maybe 3 farms, and then the several lots were sold. Maybe the farm was struggling or something, so it sold some lots and sold them out to maybe private people or maybe developers, I don't know. So they sold them out and allowed people to build houses there. And also considering the types of houses being built here, this thing probably happened a long time ago. Maybe like definitely 40 or 50 years ago. because what you do see now is that if these things happen right now, they will most likely build some sort of row house or somewhat of an apartment thing instead of these houses, because what's special about these ones is because they got quite a large property surrounding them, quite a large property, and that's why I built fences around each and every single house to sort of make it easier for you guys to see that these houses right here, they do have kind of large properties themselves, which is one thing that you do find when you're driving out to the countryside. The houses doesn't necessarily get bigger, but the properties, they do. When it comes to the farms, use the same technique as in episode 2, placing down some different kinds of barns that I have downloaded. A little bit of detailing, make the farms look somewhat unique, all of them. And one farm in particular is quite a large one. I decided to place down quite a few barn assets, or whatever you should call them, and then different kinds of ones as well. The one I'm talking about, I think it has 2 brand new farms, or brand new barns, that kind of looks like they're being built quite recently. Also 2 like chicken barns, if that's what you call them, and also a more traditional barn that looks like it's been there for 100 years. Not that it's falling apart, but looks very traditional. So that would be maybe the original one. Then they eventually just kind of built, and that makes me sort of want to talk a little bit about the state of agriculture in not just Norway and the rest of Scandinavia, but pretty much all over the world. Is that in order to make a sufficient amount of money on farming, you need to have a huge farm. If you look at Argentina or the US, when it comes to farming there, particularly farming cattle, working with cattle, incredibly huge farms are the only ones there, because that's where they get their money. You know, they have to have giant farms with probably hundreds and maybe thousands of cattle in order to, you know, really actually make a decent living, which is kind of a sad thing, that really just sort of it forces the smaller farms out and just actually abandons them. And you see the same thing in Scandinavia as well, these bigger farms where they don't necessarily just remove the traditional barn, but they build several ones, and that's the big ones. They are the one who actually makes a decent profit. The farmer there, he or she doesn't need to work another job in order to put food on their tables. And it is kind of a big concern, because as I said, it sort of forces people to get another job, and then it sort of, they realize that, hey, this is a lot easier to make money than to actually farm, and that will sort of force people to just don't use the land, and there are more and more people coming into the world in general. We need more food, and when people don't really feel like they are earning decent enough on creating food for the population, they will eventually stop, and then you're sort of struggling, right? So the farm that I talked about, with all of the barns, and it's also got, I think, 3 houses on it. That's one of them farms. It's nothing wrong with them, but they are the ones who are surviving. It's an issue that not a lot of people know about, but a lot of people find it very scary, and of course it is. you gotta have food, you gotta eat, and a lot of people also want to eat food that is grown locally. But then again, that means that there has to be someone nearby for farming and producing crops and working with animals. So it's a struggle. But enough about that. I also want to mention also a totally different topic, but the decals I am using are the same decals as I used in episode 2. Try to go for consistency. It's a lot better if you can look at Nordvik as a whole, you zoom out and you actually see the same types of colors for the farms, for the farmlands. So you sort of all hangs together, all fits, and consistency is a very important thing when you're playing this game. You might want to work in a small area and you make that cool, and you make another area over there and also make it cool, but when you zoom out, it doesn't quite work because they're two different things. There's no consistency to it. So that's a great technique. If you want to do farms and farmlands, do the same thing all over the place. It will make your city a lot better. It will make it a lot better. But that's pretty much it. That's all I have to talk about and all I have to show you. Once again, thank you so much for the incredible response to episode 1 and episode 2. It's been unreal. A lot of you have joined my Discord. There is a lot of spaces left. I don't think there is a limit, but if you want to join in, the link will be in the description. Also follow me on Twitter, posting screenshots and general updates over there. Want to be more consistent, but you know how it is really. Yeah, definitely more screenshots are coming there of future projects, future episodes. So check it out. The same thing will be found on Discord as well. Maybe not the same screenshots, maybe they're a little bit different, but Also, leave this video a like and a comment. That's if you want to support me, that's how you do it. Like this video and leave some feedback. I would love to hear what you think about this one, and also would like to hear what you want to see me build in a future episode. So please use the comment section for all that it's worth. Now go ahead and enjoy the cinematics. I once again hope you enjoyed this episode. Hope you learned something really, and I hope to see you soon. Bye for now. I thought we were more alike than unlike. Months of rain and chest pain. What's the plan? Heavy breathing, stay insane. Grab my hand. Everything is grey inside this narrow maze. We speak but oh nothing. We run ourselves.